Greetings, my friend. I'm truly honored you're spending your time with me today. And if you choose to hit that subscribe button, it'd mean the world. Now, let's get into it. Ethan Masters was never one to crave attention. He moved through life with quiet purpose and steady hands. While others chased acclaim, Ethan poured his energy into something he valued far more: his marriage to Rachel. Through 12 years together, 8 of them spent as husband and wife, he managed their household with care, made sure the lights stayed on, crafted heartfelt anniversary surprises, took over the kitchen when her job demanded late hours, and met every shared win with the pride of a man who'd earned it himself. Rachel, meanwhile, was on an unstoppable trajectory at one of Chicago's elite real estate firms. Her latest conquest, locking in a $42 million contract that had effectively fast-tracked her into the company's upper echelon. She'd called Ethan the evening before, sounding tense and distracted. "Don't come by tomorrow. Work's going to be chaos," she warned. Ethan didn't question it. He respected her hustle and had full faith in her. Still, he felt compelled to show up anyway, with a gesture that might brighten her day. He ordered a lemon raspberry cake, just like the one served at their wedding, and paired it with a bouquet of white lilies, her absolute favorite. When he rang up her assistant, Vanessa, she practically squealed with delight. "She's going to freak out. Come around 4." Grinning, Ethan gathered the gifts and headed downtown. Vanessa and 2 junior colleagues joined him in the elevator, buzzing about Rachel's promotion and murmuring rumors of a regional VP role on the horizon. As they neared the glass-paneled executive conference room, a strange sound shattered the calm. A breathless giggle, then a voice that left no doubt. "Oh God, baby, give me your juice. Make me a mommy." The corridor fell deathly still. A sharp inhale cut through the silence. Ethan's grip on the cake faltered, the box tilting in his trembling hands. But the voice? It was unmistakable. Rachel's. And the next name? Equally unmistakable. "Come on, Marcus." Marcus Delaney, age 62, a senior partner. Rachel's longtime mentor, bald, married, a guest at their wedding, once thought to be a trusted family friend. Without pause, Ethan opened the door. There she was, Rachel, partially undressed atop the polished conference table. Her high-end heels still on, blouse flung open, skirt pushed high around her hips. Marcus, red-faced and sweating, pressed over her like some grotesque parody of intimacy. Rachel's eyes locked on Ethan, first confused, then frantic. She shoved Marcus aside. Ethan calmly placed the cake down on the floor. It collapsed in on itself. "So," he said, his voice low, almost amused. "This what you've been gunning for?" And then he turned and left. No yelling, no spectacle. Just a slight, peaceful smile. Because in that instant, Ethan understood something Rachel never did. She hadn't just betrayed a man. She'd ignited a reckoning. And this was just the beginning. Her first message arrived just after dawn the next day, disjointed babbling nonsense about some VR simulation project. "It's all a mix-up," she insisted. Ethan said nothing. He had work to do. Phase 1, gather evidence. He logged into their shared iCloud. Rachel, ever confident, had assumed her tracks were covered. But data has memory, deleted texts, location logs, racy photos, all still there, plain as day. The messages read, "Can't stop thinking about your taste, my alpha. Meet at the Marriott? Room 609 again?" Emails from Marcus followed a pattern, business cloaked in flirtation. "Let's sync later tonight. Need feedback on Q3. See attached bedroom trends." Ethan compiled it all, 30 pages in total, into an encrypted digital file. The crown jewel? Footage from the conference room. Rachel had once shown him how the system worked. He retrieved the recording from 3:45 to 4:10 p.m. Clear video, clear sound. Phase 2, destroy the illusion. He created a new email with a fake name and attached the damning dossier. Recipients: Rachel's CEO, Marcia Lively. Marcus's wife, Yvonne HR, and building security. Subject line: strictly confidential, professional misconduct, immediate review required. Message body: please find attached a file documenting misconduct between Rachel Masters and Marcus Delaney in Conference Room 3B, dated October 19th. The materials include breaches of conduct, potential misuse of corporate funds, and HR violations. Confidentiality is advised. No reply necessary. He followed up with an anonymous note to the finance department, flagging dubious charges linked to Marcus, extravagant meals masked as business expenses. Lastly, he dropped a still from the boardroom video into a private Slack group of industry insiders, captioned, "When the perks go beyond promotion." The aftermath was swift. By midday, Rachel's company car access was revoked. Word spread fast in professional circles. Screenshots of an internal team chat surfaced. One message from Rachel read, "You're the only deal I want to close on top of." Marcus's wife filed for divorce within 3 days. The firm placed him on leave, pending further review. As for Rachel, she was called into HR. Waiting on the table was a single printed image, taken directly from the security footage. Meanwhile, Ethan sat alone in his dim apartment, sipping coffee and watching the first piece fall. More would follow, because betrayal isn't a single act, it's a chain of events, and Ethan had only begun serving the first course. By the third day, Rachel finally cracked. Ethan had just poured himself a glass of wine when a frantic pounding came at the door. He didn't need to guess. He'd been expecting her. Rachel stood barefoot in the hallway, eyes bloodshot, hair in disarray, clutching her phone and a crushed envelope like they were life preservers. Her blazer was wrinkled, blouse half untucked, face streaked with tears. "Ethan," she breathed. He didn't move, made no offer to let her in. "I've lost everything," she whispered. He stayed quiet. "I've been suspended. Marcia showed me all of it. The screenshots, the footage, it's everywhere, even the Slack channels. Marcus, he won't even answer my calls. He says this is a PR nightmare and that he never promised me anything. My apartment code doesn't work." Ethan's voice was like ice. "Your corporate unit?" She hesitated. "Yes. They said I violated a morality clause. Legal's involved. They're talking lawsuits." She choked on the next words. "You did this, didn't you?" He looked her straight in the eyes, steady, calm. "Do you remember what you said in that room while I was outside, holding cake, with your coworkers beside me?" Her lips trembled. Her eyes fell. "You begged him to give you his juice, so he could make you a mommy." She flinched. "A man old enough to be your father." Within a polished, glass-walled conference room, mere feet from those who once shared her workspace, she made a hesitant move forward. "Ethan, please." He didn't shift, just raised one hand, steady and absolute. "Don't." Her voice splintered, thin and breaking, as if something deep inside was cracking under strain. "I never meant for this to happen. None of it was deliberate." "You were absent," she pressed on. "You stopped being thrilling. Life became so mechanical. You never noticed that I was—" "Stop!" His words sliced cleanly, delivered with a soft finality that cut deeper than a shout. "You had options," he said. "You could have told me. You could have walked away. Instead, you chose to climb on a table with a man who calls his assistant sweet cheeks, and you threw away everything. Trust, loyalty, us." This time, her tears came unfiltered, not the kind shed over a burnt coffee or a bad day. These were raw, honest. "I've lost everything," she murmured. "The job, my place, even my reputation. No one answers my calls anymore. The media won't stop. You destroyed me." His gaze met hers, not harsh but stripped of compassion. "No, Rachel. That was you. I only held up the mirror." She stood motionless, her sobs emerging from a place emptied and aching. "What am I supposed to do now?" He stepped aside, not to welcome her in, but to clear her path out. You carry what you created, and if you're lucky, you learn something from it. There was no screaming. She didn't plead. Barefoot, streaked mascara trailing down her face, Rachel drifted toward the elevator, like a spirit trying to remember the name it once had. Ethan didn't watch with satisfaction, nor did anger linger in his chest, only a sense of unshakable certainty. He had faced the thing hiding in the dark. Now, Marcus would have to do the same. The next morning, Ethan stood before the wide pane of his apartment window, a mug heating his palms as he observed Chicago's skyline dissolve into the morning haze. But his thoughts had already left the city behind. He was focused now, laser sharp, on the final act of his reckoning. Rachel's implosion had been only the first move. The true justice would arrive with Marcus Delaney's fall, not a stumble, a complete, undeniable collapse. Rachel had betrayed their intimacy, their home, but Marcus, he had betrayed something far older and far deeper: trust, legacy, honor. Marcus hadn't merely been her affair. Once, he had been Ethan's guiding force. At 24, Ethan had started as an intern, eager, obsessive, determined. Marcus had taken him under his wing, promised him a future of blueprints and skyscrapers. He opened doors, whispered of partnerships, and poured concrete dreams into Ethan's head. He even stood at their wedding altar, raising a glass to the couple he called Chicago's next power players. A mentor who toasted the union while privately staking a claim on Ethan's wife, as if she were part of his real estate portfolio. The memory made Ethan's hands tense around his coffee. But fury wasn't what fueled him anymore. It was something colder, focused, strategic. He opened his laptop, bringing up the next phase of his plan. He had hired a forensic accountant, independent, discreet, under the pretense of merger preparations. Marcus's expense records had been fed through databases scraped from deep web archives. The trail told a vivid story: luxury wine tastings disguised as client meetings, each bottle costing more than a week's rent. Hotel stays labeled as conferences, booked under Rachel's maiden name. Escort services written off as talent consulting. The evidence was beyond dispute. But Ethan wasn't interested in filing complaints through quiet HR channels. He wanted noise. He reached out to Whitney Zhang, an unflinching investigative journalist and the sharp voice behind Gray-Collar Crimes, a podcast known for unmasking corporate corruption with scalpel-like precision. He sent her a sampler, a 1-minute muted boardroom clip and 2 explosive screenshots. Her reply was immediate. Holy sh*t, is this real? WZ. He handed her everything: complete files, unrestricted access. One condition: his identity would remain anonymous. She agreed. By Friday, the podcast premiered: The Boardroom Affair, a CEO's empire of lies, lust, and greed. This wasn't gossip. This was thunder. Marcus Delaney, once the grinning face of modern realty visionaries, now fronted every headline from Chicago Business Today to Scandal Street, from penthouse to public shame, the fall of a real estate giant. The consequences were immediate. Within 12 hours, the board suspended Marcus. A unanimous vote stripped him of all decision-making power. Yvonne, his wife, filed for divorce as soon as the podcast topped Apple's trending chart. Her official statement scorched, a full condemnation of his deceit, his abuse of power, and his moral bankruptcy. Ethan didn't stop there. He leaked a transcript of Marcus's HR interview, anonymous but devastating, to a curated list of elite clients, each involved in multi-million-dollar deals. The transcript revealed everything: the affairs, the toxic work culture, the preference shown to Rachel. Contracts dissolved overnight. Investors pulled funding. By Monday, the company's stock had dropped 7%. By Tuesday, Marcus's profile was gone from the firm's website. His LinkedIn vanished after reports of mass harassment flooded the platform. Online communities buzzed with long-buried stories: A receptionist groped behind closed doors. A junior associate denied promotions after rejecting his advances. An intern, now a professional elsewhere, finally named him as the man who had tried to silence her with threats. Ethan read every account, quietly, from a distance, no posts, no boasts, only the low, unstoppable drumbeat of justice, pounding forward. A week later, a former colleague texted him a blurry photo. Marcus, alone in a worn-out roadside cafe off Route 53, his coffee untouched, suit wrinkled, shoes unpolished. Once a man who touched the skyline, now sitting forgotten in a cracked vinyl booth. Ethan saved the image, not as a trophy, but as a marker, a reminder of what power becomes when it's twisted, what betrayal costs when the quiet one decides to speak. He shut the laptop, exhaled deeply. Rachel had vanished. Marcus was done. But this was never really about them. It had always been about Ethan and what he would become next. 6 months slipped by, unhurried. Still, the skyline that once held his ambition, his heartbreak, and his war was now just a memory inside a sealed box of old photographs. He had left it all behind. Now he lived in a simple, sun-drenched home near Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Not extravagant, not a statement, just enough. Enough to feel like peace. Not pure silence, but the absence of pretending, of proving, of pressure, of performance. Each morning began with the soft melody of birdsong drifting through the window and the quiet protest of aging floorboards as he walked, barefoot and at ease, into the kitchen. His movements were unhurried as he brewed his coffee, a daily ceremony that had once felt like an unattainable dream amidst the chaos of his past. He took his time. He read. He strolled through nearby parks. And he wrote, his thoughts pouring into a time-worn leather notebook that had become his personal refuge. The names Rachel and Marcus no longer haunted those pages. They had faded, carried away like autumn leaves on the wind. Now, his entries spoke of new beginnings, of rediscovering who he was, and of the quiet bravery it takes to piece oneself back together. The question had shifted, not, why did this happen, but where do I go from here? It was on a rainy Thursday, tucked into the stillness of the neighborhood library, that he first saw her, Elise Morgan. She was guiding a poetry session for teenagers, her tone calm and gentle as she explored themes and symbolism. A high school English teacher with a calm presence and glasses balanced on her nose. Her face carried the soft lines of someone who smiled easily and sincerely. When she spoke, even the rustle of pages stilled. When she laughed, it came from somewhere true. Their meeting was chance. Ethan had come to return a few novels. Elise noticed his choices and offered a thoughtful compliment. That sparked a conversation, Raymond Carver and his minimalist prose. One chat led to coffee. Coffee led to deeper exchanges. And before long, something unexpected took root. A connection that didn't require effort. Elise never pressed for details. She wasn't drawn to his scars. On their third meeting at a quiet cafe, her hand warming a cup of chamomile tea, she asked just one question. Do you think starting over is really possible? Ethan met her gaze, eyes full of kindness and cautious hope. His thoughts flickered to Rachel's voice behind a closed door, to Marcus and the unraveling of everything familiar, to that pivotal moment in front of the elevator, realizing it wasn't the end of him. It was his emergence. I do, he answered gently. If someone's willing to stop running and face their reflection, then yes, I believe they can begin again. She smiled and reached for his hand, softly, without any expectation. No hidden motives, no drama, just warmth. That night, Ethan didn't jolt awake, haunted by the past. He didn't revisit old betrayals. Instead, he dreamed of a porch swing, the steady sound of rain tapping the railing, and a quiet voice beside him reading poetry aloud. Weeks passed quietly. Then came an unexpected email. It was from Rachel. The subject line read, "Did it make you happy?" There was no attachment, no lengthy confession, only a few words. You got what you wanted. My reputation is in ruins. My life isn't what it used to be. I'm not angry anymore, just lost. So tell me, Ethan, did it make you happy? He stared at the screen for a long time. Then he began to type. It wasn't what happened to you that brought me happiness. It was finally letting go of the idea that you had the power to define it for me. You weren't the whole story, just one painful chapter. But the pages kept turning, and I kept walking. He pressed send. Then he blocked her. Not out of spite, but out of freedom. That message wasn't the end of his story. It was the end of hers, at least in his world. His own closure had come much earlier, on a quiet morning as he knelt in the garden, planting hydrangeas, humming to himself without realizing. Not because the grief had disappeared, but because he had grown beyond it. 12 months later, Ethan stood in the community center's auditorium, Elise's fingers wrapped softly in his. Together, they had built a literacy initiative, now celebrating its first anniversary. Dozens of teens had shown remarkable growth. 3 had secured scholarships. One young man, once deemed unreachable, stood before the crowd and shared a poem he had written himself. It was about rising from hardship. As the applause swelled, Ethan felt something new take root inside him. It wasn't revenge, not justice, not even pride. It was peace, real and steady. He didn't feel the urge to announce it. He didn't wish misfortune on anyone. Rachel and Marcus had drifted into their own stories. They no longer held space in his. Because the truest form of revenge isn't in breaking others. It's in becoming whole. It's in rebuilding, in rediscovering joy, in trusting again, in choosing to become the man who stepped away from the wreckage and never turned back. And so this is where our tale concludes. If it resonated with you, feel free to leave your reflections below. Thank you for joining us on this journey. If you found meaning in this story, don't forget to explore the others we share. Until we meet again, dear friend.